still, as a follower of Jesus, I'm still to be marked by love.
David kind of gave us a glimpse of that. He said, I'm never going to give anything to God that isn't of value.
There probably are people who would love for God to speak to them. But are you ready to hear what he has to say?
I mean, like, I physically had to say, okay, and open up my hands and say, what do you want to do here?
But I think doing life with one another isn't just showing up at a coffee shop, going through a book and talking about it and going home.
Well, welcome to another episode of Radiant Reflections. My name is Josh Herrema, one of your hosts, joined once again by my co-host, Pastor Ryan Bibb.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Or afternoon.
Afternoon, whenever you are listening, that's what time of day it is that we greet you. Today we are joined by a special guest, Mr. Greg Hackman. How you doing over there, Greg?
I'm doing all right. I'm
Rock
doing
and
fine.
roll.
Thank you for inviting me to be here today.
Yeah. So we are starting a series here on Radiant Reflections all about death. So, because that's...
Not very energizing.
You can't really sugarcoat it. But, so guys, I don't know if you've seen any statistics, that are more recent than mine, but last I knew, like, the mortality rate for human beings it's 100%. Like, have you guys seen any new information on that? Or
Pretty accurate.
Pretty good.
Okay, so we want to dig into this, look at a biblical view of death and dying, talk about the afterlife, talk about some of the bad ideas that people have about death. We'll tackle that in one of these episodes. But we actually wanted to start this series of the podcast talking with Greg, because Greg, for those of you that don't know you, if you live in the Sturgis area, you probably recognize the name Hackman. But Greg, for those that aren't familiar with you and what you do, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yep. I'm Greg Hackman, and own both funeral homes here in town, and something that I've done all my life is been in the funeral industry, I guess, kind of.
Your whole, so like did your parents
Yes,
run it?
I'm
or,
actually what they refer to in our industry as a second generation funeral director. We've owned, our family has owned what used to be Fogelsong Funeral Home. We purchased that, and Dad purchased that in 1972. Had worked for the previous owner for 18 years before that, so It goes back quite a ways. And then in 2005, we purchased the Rosenberg Skipper Funeral Home.
Okay.
And so we've owned both since then.
Nice. So like as a kid, you were around this all the time.
Yeah. We moved to the funeral home on Nottawa Street. I grew up on Wilshire, right back here, and we moved to downtown to the Fogelsong Chapel when I was in 5th grade.
Okay.
So grew up right there, and of course before that, from the time I was born, going to the funeral home wasn't a big deal because that's where Dad was at. So yeah.
So it never actually spooked you knowing you lived at a funeral home?
It didn't. It really didn't. I have all kinds of people that ask me that all the time, and no, it really never. It was just kind of what we did.
Sure, you're around it all the time.
Yeah.
Huh.
And of course, my daughter. I live now above the funeral home, and have lived there since we were married. And so, Sarah went all the time that she was growing up. She came downstairs and ran all over the funeral home and stuff, and it was just kind of home. It was just kind of home. So, yeah.
Man, oh man.
Actually, in our chapel, in our one chapel, I always tell the story that Sarah, if we had a visitation ready to start and family hadn't been in, the curtains are closed and stuff. And when she was little, she'd go running up there and she'd look in, and if there wasn't a body there or anything, she'd be like, "What are you doing? How come nobody's here?" So, that was like easy for her. So that kind of gives you an idea. So
yeah, that's different, because I know I was talking with a couple of my kids, and I said, "Hey, if you got to interview somebody who does funerals and they're around dead people all the time, like, what would you ask them?" They're like, "Is it creepy?"
Exactly. Yep.
Apparently you're saying no.
I get that all the time. Yep. And Sarah's oftentimes talked about it, with her friends. It's like, how do you live there? Isn't that weird? Isn't that creepy? And so, yeah. And we had ran into some friends. My wife Amy, she had a good friend that was spooked by it, kind of, and didn't want to come up. And finally, he wouldn't come up, and she said, "What's going on?" She said, "I just don't feel comfortable." And so then after a while, we kind of worked with him, and so he was fine. He was fine after that. So Yeah.
Nice.
So you really got into the whole business because you were born into it.
Kind of, yeah. You know, when I was young, there was other things that I thought that I wanted to do, and kind of looked at a few different things, but it was just, I guess, I appreciated and respected so much what my dad did. That was it. And he died at a young age. I mean, he was only 52 when he died.
Oh, wow.
So I was 21 at the time. But yeah, I always just thought that was really cool what he did and serving people, and something that I thought that I would really like to do. So,
which you and your team do an incredible job serving people extremely well in the midst of the pain and heartache that families are experiencing. You guys do a tremendous job.
Thank you very much. We really try. I mean, and I tell people, and it's not just me saying it, but you know, for all the years that we've been here and all that, we are constantly looking to how we can serve families better. You know, we're not just sitting back and going through the motions. So we're always looking at ways to serve people better.
That's good. Now, I mean, maybe having grown up with it, this isn't even an issue. But I mean, like let's say somebody rolls in fresh. Like you hire somebody. I don't know how that works. You know, you hire somebody. Like how do you walk alongside somebody to help them, in a sense, cope with being around death all the time? I mean, do you feel like in some ways you get like desensitized? I know that almost has negative connotations,
right.
but I don't mean it negatively.
Right.
But like, because again, like you literally make a living off people dying. I mean, and not in a bad way, but I mean,
exactly.
A lot of sorrow surrounds what you do.
Right. Yeah. And the desensitizing, I've had a lot of people say, you know, you just get to where you don't feel anything or that type of thing, and absolutely not. I mean, it's, you know, we know what those people are going through, and trying to help them as best we can. So no, it's not a desensitizing thing. And when you bring a new person in, I think just kind of being there for them. I don't know because I've had several apprentices and people that have started with me and then moved on. And I don't know if there's one thing that I could say that you do other than just kind of being there for them and just answering their questions and that type of thing. And as far as becoming desensitized, again, my dad, he told me when I first started, he said, just make me a promise, and that is if you ever get to the point where you have a child, definitely a child, and you don't feel anything, and he says you're just kind of going through, he says, please promise me that you'll get out of the business at that time.
Wow.
Because then you're not doing for the families what they need. And
wow.
I tell everybody that has not been a problem yet, so I haven't had to worry about that yet.
What great wisdom from your father, though.
Yes, exactly.
That was awesome.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah.
So kind of, I mean, as part of that, you know, your desire to serve the families. I mean, you, like on some level, you enter in and actually mourn with them.
Exactly.
You know, in the midst of their
absolutely
their loss.
Yeah.
So how do you find joy in the middle of that? You know, I mean, you know, kind of a constant state of being surrounded by people in mourning, you know, all the sorrow. How do you still, you know, find that balance or live in the tension between mourning but still being able to kind of hold on to joy and hope? Like, what does that look like, you know, for you?
Yeah, the biggest thing is, again, it kind of goes back to that serving thing. You know, yeah, it's really difficult at times when you're dealing with that. But you know, as a funeral director, you just, for me anyway, you have to, and I think all of us would be the same way. You just have to focus on serving that family and getting them through that difficult time. And I mean, and I tell everybody, if I can make it that much easier for them, I feel like I've done my job. And walking them through there, being there for them. Our phones are available 24 hours a day. When I meet with the family, I tell them, you know, I live at the funeral home. If you need anything, if you're thinking about something at 3 o'clock in the morning, call me. I usually jokingly say, if you call at 3 in the morning, I can pretty much guarantee it's going to be me that answers the phone, not anybody else. But yeah, I mean, it's just being there to get them through that. And if Amy, my wife, was here, she would tell you, and I'll tell you that, you know, there's difficult cases that we have, and it's usually like the day after or the afternoon after the service is over when I have kind of my downtime, and then And I mean, there's been times that I've broke down and after leaving the cemetery and having that done, because you kind of get into that mode to where, again, you're there to serve. I got to do this. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely times for me that that I break down and everything. So
the weight. I mean, when you're in a sense off duty, right? Like, okay, hey, like we did the job. Like now the full weight of it.
Right.
Kicks in, and you feel that
kind of that allowing
acutely.
yourself to let that go. Yeah, yeah.
That's crazy. Ryan, you look like you're going to ask something.
I was just going to ask, what do you do for fun?
What do I do for fun?
When you're not, because the business you were in can be 24/7.
It is
all the time.
24/7. Yep.
What do you do for fun?
Yeah.
To kick back and just enjoy life.
Yeah, I am a fanatic for bass fishing. I love to bass fish. So yeah, if I can get away for a little while, I hook my boat up and I go find some place to fish.
Nice.
And usually I've got friends that fish and that, but I probably fish alone 90% of the time because I like that time of being just me and that. So yeah, and time with my family. Sarah, my daughter's in New York City, so we like to go in and spend some time with her too. Okay. So yeah. So family time and that. So at the lake, and we do have a place at Big Fish Lake, and so hang out there too. So that's kind of a good thing.
Nice.
Yeah.
So how has being around death most of the time changed your perspective on living?
Hold on, you said most of the time. He's always around death.
Yeah, well, but
they're either alive or.
Well, but I mean, when he's bass fishing,
Oh, okay.
It's not like 24 hours a day you're standing next to a dead body.
Sure,
Yeah.
exactly.
I mean,
exactly.
a lot of it. So most of the time. If you want to get nitpicky.
There we go. So your question again was?
How has that changed your perspective on life and living?
Yeah,
has that been?
I don't know if it's hugely different. I don't know if I'm hugely different than everybody else, other than we all take life too much for granted. And you would think that in my job that I would realize that with what I see, and I really try to not do that and try to appreciate the time that we do have and not waste that time. And I think I've seen that, I mean, obviously we serve everyone from 104-year-olds to 4-year-olds and realize that, tomorrow's not guaranteed, we aren't guaranteed tomorrow. So I try to appreciate every day that I have and not waste it.
No, that's good.
And in the midst of that, you've probably seen a lot of different mourning from people. Can you talk about maybe some of the ways you've seen people mourn death?
Yeah, there's times when I sit down with the family, and it's very almost like cookie cutter. They're trying to just get through this, no emotion and that type of thing. And that obviously is a family that I, first of all, am very worried about, because they are just, it's not like they're opening up, and I don't think that they're addressing what they're going through, and that concerns me. And you have the other families that are totally, they're totally lost it and don't know where to start, don't know what to do, and again, that's why we're there. And I can't tell you the number of times that I've had families that say, Greg, I don't know what to do, and it's like, that's why I'm here.
Yeah.
Let me walk you through it. And probably one big thing as far as difference in grieving and that type of thing is whether that family are believers or not. I've been doing this a long time, and I can almost, when we sit down to start the arrangements, within the first 5 minutes or so, I can tell whether they're believers or not. Huh. Yeah, because the ones that don't believe have, which I don't know how. I tell everybody I don't know how you get through it if you're not. But the ones that are not believers have no hope. This is it. What do we do? Where the other ones are, where the believers are, obviously very, very emotional in that too. But they realize that there is the next the next step. And they can see to that. So, yeah.
So how do you that first group of people that you talked about, these ones that like, there's like no emotion, you're like, that's a bad sign.
Right.
I mean, do you do anything to, in a sense, coach them through?
Yeah.
Because you really functionally, you have a pastoral role.
Absolutely.
I mean, with these you're walking them through probably one of the most difficult times in the life, losing a loved one, losing a child, a parent, these are heavy times. Do you do any sort of coaching to try to help them grieve in a healthy way?
Yeah, I guess just try. Usually when I feel that, I usually try to kind of slow things down as far as the information taking type thing. And there's times when I'll just lay my pen down or whatever and say, let's talk to me about mom. I didn't know your mom. Can you tell me about your mom? And they'll, some people won't do anything and you just can't do it. But most people will start opening up and that type of thing and realizing that, that they're it's okay. Some of them are, they don't want to break down or that, especially men. But then they'll usually start opening up and that type of thing. Yeah.
No, that's good.
So, yeah.
That's good. Yeah, because grief is one of those things you see all kinds of different expressions of. But yes, it's curious to see how but you can even like pinpoint some of the things like, well, hey, like if you're a believer or if the deceased was a believer, man, that's really interesting.
Yeah. And all different types of grief. I mean, anger, obviously there's anger, there's all the different things. And I've been lashed out at, by people that's something that I didn't have any control over, but I was the person that they lashed out to. And usually I always get an apology later, and it's like, it's okay, it's okay. You needed to let that out right there. And if I can be the one that you do that for, that's what I'm here for. So.
Emotions are running all over the place.
All over the place.
Yeah.
Yep.
So on a light note, like, have you guys ever seen the robot chicken 5 stages of grief with the giraffe? No?
I think you showed me it.
Did I show you that?
I don't think I've seen it.
So that's something for you to do when you get back to the office today.
All right.
So no, it walks through the 5 stages of grief with this giraffe. It's epic. JB, have you seen it? We've got JB off mic, our producer.
Seen that one.
You should. You'll have to look that up. I'll try to remember. I think it's appropriate. I'll link it in the description of the video episode of this podcast. Which, for those of you that are watching the video episode, clearly Ryan and I underdressed for this episode. You're making us.
I don't think so. I just have work clothes on.
You look sharp. That's right. Okay, that's another lighter question. Like, do you enjoy wearing a suit every day?
I do.
Okay.
I do. Yep. Yeah. And I'm old, so I tell people I'm old school too. That was probably something, again, that my dad said. We have families that are surprised when we go to a home death or something like that at 3:00 in the morning that I'm dressed exactly like this. I'm dressed exactly like this. But there's part of that, we really feel that there's part of that individual that we're taking into our care deserves that respect and that honoring of my dressing like this.
Oh, that's cool.
A lot of funeral homes have switched around and not maybe done that, but which is fine. But for me, as long as I'm here, it'll be a suit and tie. So.
Very cool.
Yeah.
You say you're old. Are we allowed to ask you how? Like, you don't seem old to me, actually.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, huh?
What do you want? I will be 60 in July.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay. That's not.
Are you nervous
That's not
turning
too bad.
60?
No, I'm not really. Not really. No. Age has really never been a big deal for me, as long as I can keep doing what I'm doing. And
Good for you. So there wasn't a tough birthday like turning 30 or 35 or 40?
Probably kind of a weird deal would be 25.
25?
Because then it was like, not a real big deal, but it was like all of a sudden, I'm not really 25, man. I'm not a kid anymore. I gotta be doing something. So,
well, speaking of that age, how long does it take to go through? I'm guessing it's mortician school.
Yep, mortuary school. Yeah.
How long does it take?
Each state is a little bit different. Michigan requires 60 credit hours in what they require, basically you're going to get an Associates of Science. You don't actually have to have an associate's, but it would be close to that. And then mortuary school is 12 months straight through. And it actually would be almost, by the credit hours, it's like two years of college thrown into 12 months. And then 1 year of apprenticeship, serving under a licensed funeral director. And then you take your state boards and national boards. To become licensed. So.
So, I mean, for the people that are listening or watching, like, I think, like, all you do is, like, stand at the door, like, and hand people flyers as they walk in, right? I mean, you guys, like, do the whole deal, though. I mean, you guys do the embalming, you do the cremations, you guys do, you know, everything.
Yes.
So, you're not just a...
Correct.
You probably don't wear a suit when you're doing some of that stuff, right?
I don't know. We do have to wear some stuff.
Is that a trade secret? I don't want
to. But yeah, that's a big thing too. That a lot of, you know, I've had people that, you know, young people that say, I think I want to do what you do. I want to do, you know, I want to be a funeral director and they don't realize how much it involves. You know, it's. You know, they think wearing a suit and tie and handing out folders and going to the cemetery and that's it, you know. Big thing that a lot of people that go into the business don't realize is the hours. The hours are, and the amount of the percentage that stay in the business after 5 and 10 years is, it's really pretty low. They don't stay in.
Now, do you think because of the hours, or do you think it's they never learn like healthy ways to cope with?
I think that's part of it. Yeah. And the hours I think is a big thing. You know, because it is 24/7, especially if you're in a smaller funeral home like us. I have a friend that works in a big funeral home in Charleston, South Carolina. They handle about 1,200 services a year, but they have a staff that. You know, they have on-call and off, you know, you're on and off, where we're not that, you know, we don't have that. I don't have the staff that can.
1,200 services?
1,200 services a year.
What is an average for you guys?
We do about 225 or something.
Wow, that's perspective right there.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, that's still a lot of.
Yeah.
It's a lot of services.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Yeah. My friend that's in South Carolina, we go back and forth. Actually, he started with me, and but he'll give me a hard time at times, and he'll shoot me a text, and he'll say, well, you know, like February 18th or whatever. He said, well, we're just handling our 103rd call for the month, you know. So I'm like, oh my god.
Wow.
Good grief.
Wow. Yeah.
No, that'd be hard.
Yeah. And my dad worked at a large funeral home when he first started, and thought that was exactly what he wanted, till he did it for a while, and then it was like he said, you know, I decided it wasn't what I wanted, because you can't take the time to be with each family or know each family. You know, there just isn't.
You got your checklist, okay?
Kind of to a degree,
you know.
yeah, because there just isn't the time. And when I was in Chicago, I worked at a large funeral home. They did they were doing over 2,000 calls a year. Out of several locations, but and that's what I thought. I thought this is what I would want. You know, I would like to be this busy in that. And again, I was kind of like my dad. I was there for about 4 months and decided this isn't what I want. You know, I mean, setting arrangements. My boss said, because we would take in Chicago that families would call us directly in the middle of the night, and he said, just start my arrangements start the first one at 10, then 11, then go to 9. And then go to 1 o'clock or noon or whatever, whatever we needed to do. And I asked him one time, I said, well, what if you're with a family and you need to spend 2 hours with that family that they just needed? He said, we can't. There isn't the time.
Wow.
And I mean, and they were good funeral directors. I mean, but it was just not what I wanted.
Yeah, I mean, we've got that type of volume.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Right. There's only so many hours in a day, you know, so, yeah.
So what are some of the most difficult, you know, I mean, you respond to all variety of deaths. Like, what are some of the most difficult in your opinion?
Obviously the young people, children. That's, because they're just, in our mind, there's just nothing right about it. But my thing that I tell people, and I don't try to say that I know what they're going through. I definitely don't. I mean, I will sit with a family and tell them I'm here for you, anything you need, but I'm not going to say that I know that what losing a child is like. And I tell them straight up, and I pray to God every day that I can't ever sit here and tell you that I know what I'm going through. So, yep. And then, in a small town like mine, and of course I was born and raised here, the percentage of the people that I know that I'm taking care of is really, really good, but also can be tough too. I mean, because you are going through that, you're grieving with them. I mean, I've lost a friend. I've lost, but I also feel that it's really a gift that I have, that I can give to this person, this friend, one thing that no one else can. I can take them all the way through to the end. So, yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, so I feel that that's a gift, and gift that I'm given. So,
that's good. So, I mean, you talked about not being able to say, "Oh, hey, I know what you're going through." Take just a minute. Like, what would you say, from an advice standpoint, to somebody like they know somebody who just lost a loved one? What are some, hey, don't say
right
this,
kind
of thing?
Probably. I think people don't know what to say, and I think they say too much. Because everybody wants to help, but it's like, and it's not that they intentionally do it, but people will come up and say, "Oh, I know what you're going through. I know what you're going through," and it's like, and none of us know what they're going through. I don't care, even if you have lost a parent or whatever. Each person's different. The biggest thing that you're going to get over you'll get over this, and he's better off, or because he was going through this and he was suffering, and so he's better off. He's in a better place, and which may very well be. But at that point, a lot of times people, that's not what they want to hear. I don't want to hear that. Yeah, I know that he's in a better place, but does it make me happy right now? No, no, it's not making me happy right now. I'm angry. And I usually just tell people, hug, and I'm thinking about you and praying for you. That's all. You don't need to do any more than that, and let the grieving person, then open up and let kind of what they're looking for.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah,
it's good advice.
It is.
So, cool. Ryan, anything else you want to throw Greg's way? I know we're approaching the time limit.
We're almost there. Let's do this one last question.
Okay.
Greg, what do you view as the purpose of a funeral?
Yeah, I think we're talking about the grief. I think that memorialization and that is extremely important. With the COVID and all this stuff, it's been difficult. The last year's been very difficult for us as funeral professionals because of the limitations on numbers of people that can be there and that type of thing. We were talking, a hug and that is huge. It's huge. Just people coming in, seeing that support and that is huge for a family. Again, you don't have to say anything, but just knowing that you're not going through this alone, and knowing that there's a lot of people there that are praying for you and are supporting you and that type of thing. And I think for those that are believers, obviously the religious service is big too. I mean, it's that support and that, reaffirming that, that this isn't the end. This is just kind of the stopover right now. And when we go to the next step, it's forever. So,
No, that's good.
And I think and I'm so much looking forward to, I've said it numerous times, that I'm so looking forward to this COVID thing being done and my funeral home being packed with people supporting families that I'm serving. So.
Yeah, it's put a damper on.
Yes. It has. So, yeah.
Cool. Well, hey, Greg, we appreciate you coming and joining us for this.
Absolutely.
And just a really cool perspective that we don't have. We see funerals from one angle, but you have a kind of a 360 view to everything that happens. So yeah, we appreciate getting
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. And it's kind of Brian and I have talked about it. We've all talked about it. I think we're all one team. We're all serving that family. And that's the way that I look at it anyway. I look at you guys as being an extension of what I do for the families we serve. So
that's good.
And I appreciate Radiant. You guys have always been so open to anything that we needed. I don't think I've ever heard no from you guys at all.
As long as I'm in town and not on
well,
vacation
I was going to kind of let that slide by.
That's Greg's always joking around. Well, what city are you going to next now? How long will you be gone?
That's it. Oh.
And did you take everybody else with you? Or not?
I flew to Florida one time, and who walks in is on the same flight with me? It's Ryan.
Yeah, we're sitting in the airport. I'm like, Greg. There we both are.
Of all the airplanes in all the world.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You got to walk into this one.
That was funny. Yeah.
Yep. So.
Oh, that's good. Well, hey, thank you guys for joining us for another episode of Radiant Reflections. We would love it if you would like, share, subscribe, rate, review, all those good things. If you use this on social media, go ahead and share this post. Let your friends know what's up. They can get a good look at Greg. If they don't know Greg,
there you
they can
go.
be like, hey, who is this guy they're talking about? Awesome guy. Again, we appreciate being here. Appreciate you joining us for the episode. And we will see you next time as we continue our conversation about death and dying and how we approach that from a biblical standpoint.